Hi guys, I'm Danica.
And I'm Damien.
And this is Cooking and Couponing with the Gabb's Easter Special.
Hello guys, and today for this Easter special, we'll be making cornbread, or more or less just dressing. So for this, we'll need 3/4 of a cup of cornmeal, twice because we're doubling the recipe this time.
And the recipe is coming off the side of the cornmeal package, so you can get any cornmeal. We're using Kroger brand, but it really doesn't matter just as long as it's yellow cornmeal. And it's 3/4 of a cup, like Damien said, 2 times if you're doing a double recipe. If you're doing just a single recipe, just follow it as it's written on the side of the cornmeal box.
Alrighty, and now we're going to use 1 1/4 of all-purpose flour.
And the flour we're using is all-purpose flour, like Damien said. It's best to use all-purpose because it can be used for baking or cooking or anything to that effect. If you get the bleached kind, that one is a little bit heavy in my experience, so I always try to opt to get all-purpose flour.
And now we'll use, since we're doubling the recipe, if you're just doing this once, then just use 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and if you're doubling it, then 4. And now we'll use a teaspoon of salt.
The recipe does call for a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, but like Damien said, we're doing a double recipe, so 2 halves is 1 whole. So he's just gonna add 1 whole.
Okay, so now we need a cup of milk.
And be sure that you add, if you're doing a double recipe, 2 cups of milk. Do it 2 times, 1 cup or just 2 cups of milk. Depending on what container you're making your dressing in, that's what lets you know if you're going to do a single or double recipe. We eat a lot of dressing during any holiday, so I always do a double recipe. And then also on the side of the cornmeal, it does, the cornmeal container, it does tell you that to add sugar. I personally do not like sweet dressing, so that part I skip. I do omit the sugar.
And now we're going to get 2 eggs since we're doubling the recipe. Normally you use 1 though.
And it does call for the egg to be beaten. So since we're doing the double recipe, like Damien said, just crack 2 eggs and you can just beat them. And whenever you beat egg for a recipe, basically what you're doing is putting air into your eggs. It makes things more light and fluffy.
And now we're going to use 1/4 of a cup of vegetable oil.
We're using Mazola corn oil. If you have vegetable oil, that's perfectly fine. I'm not a big fan of vegetable oil in general. Corn oil I use pretty much for everything. So once again, since we're doing a double recipe, we're going to do that twice. If you're doing just a single small recipe one time, then you do not need to add the oil twice.
Alright, so now we're going to lightly spray the balls and sides with butter flavored great value stuff.
I always like to get the butter flavor. You can use whichever kind of spray you have. This is to keep your cornbread from sticking. I'm using a glass oval sized pan, which you'll see in just a moment. But whatever spray you have is perfectly fine. You just want to do it lightly because we already have oil in our cornbread.
Okay, and be sure to preheat your oven to 400 while you're mixing everything together. That's just it.
And be sure when you're mixing, you stir from the bottom of whatever bowl you have so that you're getting your cornbread and your flour from off that bottom, because those are going to be your heavier parts of your mix. So those are always more likely to stick to your bottom, and then you're going to be missing flour and cornmeal. It's going to make everything more grainy than it should be.
Alrighty, and now we just pour it into the pan. Alright guys, so now we're just going to put it in the oven, and make sure if you're doing a single recipe, it's 20 to 25 minutes. If you're doing a double recipe, it's 30 to 45.
Okay guys, now right here, I just wanted to show you guys that I am also making candy sweet potatoes. Sometimes I'll do this, or other times I'll do a sweet potato casserole. But for today, we're just going to do normal candy sweets. Now, what I usually do is when I shop and you guys see me do my meat and veggies haul videos, I'll peel my sweet potatoes and cut them up like this, or in chunks pretty much. And I put them in the freezer in Ziploc bags, and then I add maybe a half a teaspoon of lemon juice to coat them, depending on how many you have. If you have a gallon bag or something like that, a half a teaspoon to 1 teaspoon to make sure that you coat all of your sweet potatoes. Now, what that acidity does, it keeps the color. I actually bought these maybe 2 months ago, and they've been in the freezer since. So I'm not buying these just flat out regular shelf price. I bought these maybe 2 to 3 pounds for $1 a couple of months ago, literally. And that's what I do all the time. So if you guys wanted to try that, you can. And then I just put them in, maybe this is, I'm not sure, I think this is a 5-quart saucepan or a 3-quart saucepan. No, this is about a 5-quart. Just regular saucepan, and fill it halfway with water. Now, it depends on how many sweet potatoes you're making, how much water you need. But make sure you cover them a little generously, like you see I have them here. And then I'm going to put a top on this and just let them go until they start to soften. And then I'll show you the next step after that. Okay, now, while my sweet potatoes are going, let me go ahead and put that top over those. And then the top I have has a little vent part right here. So if yours doesn't, you can tilt it where it's just maybe a half an inch off the pot so you can vent and it doesn't start bubbling up too badly. Or if you have one with a vent on it, it's perfectly fine to just close the lid like that. Now, what I'm going to do now, while my cornbread that Damien made is baking, I'm going to start the other part of the, what you guys might call it stuffing. We call it dressing because I never stuff my turkeys. So, so I call it dressing, but it's pretty much the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and add a half of a large onion. So let me go ahead and get to chopping now. Now, once I'm done peeling it, I'm not fond of this at all. It's pretty dirty. Well, one thing, I just peeled off the outer part of it. I'm going to cut on the cold water. But Potatoes and onions and celery and all that stuff have to be washed. Those are root vegetables, which means they grow on or under the dirt. So pretty much when you get them from the store, they may be a little bit dirty. So go ahead and rinse them in cold water and get them back to where you want them to be. Okay, now I'm just going to take this half of the onion and I'm just going to chop it up and put this, and I guess this is maybe a 1 to 2 quart saucepan. Now you don't want your dices to be too large because then they won't cook down evenly. Try to get it as even as you possibly can. If you can. I'm not the best with that either, but do your best. Okay, now I'm just going to go ahead and put it into the saucepan. And then I'm going to show you the rest of it. So once again, this is 1/2 of a yellow onion. Now I don't really like white onions. They don't have enough flavor for me. I like yellow onions. Okay, now after that, I'm going to add, now this is a quart size. Now this is one of them that I have. I have a deep freezer. And like I was saying about the sweet potatoes, I do the same thing for my celery. I clean it and dress it up really nicely, and then I chop it down. This is for like soups or dressing or anything that I need to just be quick about grabbing something. So instead of paying the prices at the grocery store, I get these fresh. 2 for $1 for 2 whole stalks of celery. Well, 2 whole bunches. And then I just bag them up like this in a Ziploc bag. And then for things like this, I just added. So I'm going to tell you guys to add, because since we did a double recipe, the glass oval pan that I have is about half full of cornbread. So I'm going to add probably a cup of celery. Now, I am Southern. I was raised by Southern people, so I do not measure. I eyeball. But that's by force of habit. But for you guys who don't eyeball, it's going to be just 1 cup of celery. So then I'm just going to zip this right back up and put it right back in the deep freezer for next time, whatever else I need. Okay, so that's going to be it for your veggies for your saucepan. So now I'm going to add a 1/2 stick of butter or margarine. Right now I'm using margarine. You can use butter if you want. Butter is a little more rich than margarine, so I will cut that back to maybe 3 tablespoons if you're using butter. But for margarine, I'm going to use a 1/2 stick. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and cover this with water. Pretty much the same that I did for the sweet potatoes. We're going to cover this a little generously, but not to go over when it starts boiling. Now, if you wanted to cover this, you could, but it will, be careful, it will boil over. If you wanted to, just go ahead and leave it uncovered and let it go. Now, also to this, I'm going to add 1 bouillon cube. Now, this is Knorr brand. You can use any brand you want. I go to Dollar Tree sometimes and get the little containers of chicken and beef bouillon just to keep, once again, for soups or whatever else I need. So, for this, I'm going to add just 1 bouillon cube for flavor. Now, also for this, if you wanted to, you can add a 1/2 cup of chopped green onion. This time I'm not going to because it's just for Easter. This is a Christmas or Thanksgiving or anything like that. So I'm just going to do the yellow onion and the celery, but you can also add a 1/2 cup of green onion to this mix. Now, you're just going to let this boil and just go. Okay, now I'm about to go ahead and just slice. I'm not going to dice the other half of that onion. Now, this is going to be for, I'm not doing a full turkey. I'm doing turkey wings and legs. And then also I have a chicken breast I'm going to split just to make it a little bit more. So once you're done slicing this, and once again, try to keep it even so it cooks evenly. I'm going to set this to the side. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and prep our turkey first, and then we're going to prep the chicken. So I'll show you what I'm going to put it in just a moment. But first off, now what I do for my meat all the time, I do my Ziploc bags. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut on the cold water that never rinse in hot. And I'm going to rinse these. Now some people, I actually posted that in my Facebook group. Well, actually I didn't. Another moderator in my group did post that. Do you wash your chicken? This classifies as pretty much the same, poultry, for turkey. And a lot of people answered yes. Some people answered no. I do. I was taught to rinse it. Not wash it like meaning with soap, but you just rinse it down. You never know what they are doing in your stores when they prepare these and put them in the packages. So I always feel safer rinsing this. So I'm going to pour the rest of that out. Now, I did a live video, was it yesterday? It wasn't yesterday, day before yesterday, on Facebook. And I showed what I do to disinfect. I don't want to touch anything, but I do have like this giant thing of Palmolive antibacterial that I keep just for the kitchen specifically. And then I have my Lysol as well. So what we're going to do is we're just going to rinse this down a little bit. It's already pre-rinsed because I had them in bags marked turkey. Didn't know what I was going to use them for. I bought it about maybe 2 weeks ago. But clearly it came in handy because I'm using it for Easter. I'm going to just rinse it down a little bit and put it into, I have a square, I think it's an 8x9 casserole. Actually, let me get the big dinosaur one that looks like it came from the Flintstones. This one is always for hubby. So yeah, me and the kids can never eat this. He can, and more. But he's not fat and no parts. I don't understand it. His metabolism is way higher than mine. But whatever. Now, since I'm going to be also doing chicken just to spread it out, because you can see I don't have a whole lot of turkey here. I'm going to split that breast, but I'm going to cook it in a separate glass little round pan. Now, a lot of people are not going to keep the ends like off of chicken wing. I don't know. I love the ends off chicken wings, so I love the ends on turkey wings as well. So those will also be going into this casserole, probably specifically for me, because no one else eats these. I go for them first. Also, for the wings, I like the middle. I don't like the end. I'm weird. So yeah. Okay, now I got that done. Now let me go ahead. I'm going to clean my hands. Even though it's both still poultry, I still want to be clean. And I'm going to get to that bowl when I'm completely done and cut that hot water on. You don't wash your hands in cold water. And I also have soft soap. Now this one is Kitchen Fresh Anti-Bac. I only keep these for the kitchen whenever I'm stockpiling my hand soaps. I'll get a mix of regular with the fragrance and everything, like with lotion and stuff. But I always mandatorily get the anti-bac specifically for the kitchen. And I'm going to rinse this down really good. Because now, I should have washed my hands on the other side. That's the worst. But now I'm going to go ahead and grab my chicken. Because that's about to go in the other round glass pan. Okay, now for this, I'm going to pour this, but I'm going to set this over on the other side like this, because this is a whole bag of 4 chicken breasts. So I'm going to just take out 1. These are all like medium size. I only need 1. So there's 3 left in here. So I can use that another day. This is going to go back in probably in another Ziploc when I'm done here. Okay, so we're going to rinse this and then we're going to split this breast. Now I'm doing that because this is mainly for my daughter. They call it Politarian, I think, where they only eat chicken. She's never really been big on turkey anyway, so she doesn't primarily like the breast because it's so thick. So this is specifically for her. I'm going to split the breast. Now she's probably only going to eat half of this, so the other half will be for whoever wants it. If my husband's being greedy, he can have it. Whoever wants the other half of this can take it. But I'm just going to split it straight down the middle. You just place your hand straight on top of the thickest part of the breast. Lay your knife down flat so that you can get an even cut straight through. So lay it down across that top part of that breast. That's where I am now. I'm pushing down towards the middle, so you just follow your hand down where you're going with your chicken breast. And you just slide your knife back and forth. And that way, you get an even cut straight through. Now, let's see what happened. Did I do it right? Yes, I did. I have an even cut straight through. So now I'm going to just put that right in my round pan. Okay, so here is the round pan that I'm going to be using. It's actually a pie pan. But I like it because it's round and clear and pretty. It's glass. So I'm going to be putting my chicken in here, just to have it separate from my turkey. Now everything is going to be cleaned and washed off and disinfected really good. Now let's go ahead and season this chicken first. Okay, so I am going to be doing usually what I do for my holiday, Christmas, Thanksgiving seasoning. I'm going to do light seasoned salt. Now this is just crushed red pepper. If you don't like pepper, you can omit this. And then this is just regular garlic powder. And just an even coating on both pieces. And then this is just butcher grind black pepper. I like this one. It's a coarser grind. Now you don't want too terribly much because you already used crushed pepper. And then I'm going to be using onion powder. Just a light coating over both. Okay. Next I'm going to be using ground sage. Light coating over both. Now, alternatively to the sage, you can use poultry seasoning. Maybe I'll do that. I'll do sage for the chicken breast, and I'll do poultry seasoning for my turkey breast. So that's going to be it for the chicken breast. I'm going to add just a little bit of olive oil, not a lot, because you don't want it greasy. So I just place my finger over the top and just get just a little bit over there. And that's it. Just some drizzles. Okay, now here are the turkey wing pieces. And we're going to do the same thing. Seasoned salt, black pepper, garlic powder, onion. And this time we're going to be using poultry seasoning instead of sage. Either one. They both pretty much taste just about the same. Sage is a slightly bit more strong. But it's pretty much around the same flavor profile. The seasoned salt, onion powder here. Garlic powder. Black pepper. crushed pepper. Not a lot, but we like spice. If it's not spicy, we don't eat it here from my house. So you just season to your own personal taste. Okay, now we're going to use poultry seasoning. And you just sprinkle that lightly. You don't want a whole lot, too much. It's going to overpower your food. These are strong taste and seasonings. Okay, now I'm going to drizzle again a little bit of olive oil. Not a lot, because they're all in the same pan together. That's enough. Now we're going to go back to the onion that we just sliced up. Now, of course, majority of it is going to go here on our turkey. And then the rest of it is going to go over your chicken. You just separate your onion slices. That's enough right there. Now let's do our chicken. Okay, now that's that. Now we're going to put a little bit of water over both of them. If you don't add a little water, one is going to come out dry. Two is going to burn. Now you don't want too terribly much. You don't want no whole lot. We're not boiling this. Okay, let's add a little water to this for our turkey. Not a lot, once again. You're not boiling this. You just want enough so that it's not sticking. And that it's nice and juicy and not dry. We're going to cover this with foil. Now, your cook time is going to depend on your oven. For my electric oven, I'm going to cook this for at least 2.5 hours. Now, that's for the turkey. For the chicken breast, about an hour to an hour and a half. Now, never turn your oven up so high that you want it to go fast. You're always going to cook these, well, I always cook, period, low and slow. 400 for my oven is perfectly fine. So, I got this all covered and ready to go. So, we're going to put this in the oven on 400. About 2 to 2.5 hours on this turkey. About an hour to an hour and a half until brown and nice and done on the chicken breast.
What y'all know about Khalid? Absolutely nothing.